Hey there. So I am completely new to Twitch. This is my first day streaming. If you end up joining me, thank you so much for being here. I was streaming on Facebook Live for a while. That's where all of my friends and family already were, and they had some interest in watching me do various art. So I started streaming there first and then decided that probably people weren't really looking for art tutorials or people working on their art while they were scrolling through their Facebook feed. I kind of figured Twitch might be a better place to do that. So hence, that's why I'm here. And I thought I would start things off by doing some minimal abstract rock art landscapes. I have a bunch of rocks that I found on the trail that's near our house. Also, some of these came from our neighbor's backyard. The ones that are already painted actually came from their backyard. So these, I'm probably gonna lay down a coat, just like a solid coat of paint over the entire thing and then paint on top. I may not get to that tonight because I really only have like an hour and a half before I gotta go because I'm a mom, I'm tired, and I have a pretty early bedtime these days. So anyway, I'm gonna stick with just painting these rocks tonight. I don't even know that I'm gonna get to all 4 of them, but at least paint a couple of them hopefully. What I did earlier today was I cleaned all of these just using some soap and water, and then used some Podge Matte. I figured this would just give it like a nice smooth surface to start with. And it is pretty smooth, like you can run your hand over it and it feels a little glossy almost. And gave the rock a little bit of a sheen where I applied it, but not overly so. Let's see, what other tools do I have here? I'm going to be using palette paper to mix my paints with a nice little palette knife. I love this little guy. Probably also going to use a pencil to do some sketching on the rock. This is B lead, which is pretty soft. I'm hoping using a softer lead I'll be able to get a little bit more of a mark on the rock versus going with a hard lead. And then I also have some Liquitex Flow Aid for my Liquitex Basics acrylics. I'm just going to put a couple dots in my mixes as I'm working. What did I say? I'm going to put a couple of drops of the Flow Aid in the paint to make it a little bit easier to work with. I really like working with acrylic gouache normally on paper, and since this is a rougher surface, but I really want that like nice smooth matte finish, I'm gonna see how this works out. I've actually never used this Flow Aid before, so this will be a fun experiment. I have my little dropper tool for that. I have some synthetic brushes, mostly round brushes I'll probably use. I might pull out a filbert or what do you call it? Like a square edge. I know there's a name for it. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. But yeah, I might use a couple other different brushes for that. And then oh yeah, the Liquitex Basics acrylics. I have these guys, and I'm gonna be doing like a mostly brown neutral kind of palette with a green to balance it out, and probably bring in some like white and black too for highlight and contrast. So we'll see how that all shakes out. I kind of have like a very general idea in my head of what I want the design to look like, and we'll see how it turns out in the end. All right, so first things first, let's mix up some paint. I just got done putting, why did I say it like that? Putting. I don't usually enunciate my T's. Putting my 1-year-old to bed. Yeah, he just went to bed not too long ago. And usually when he goes to bed is when I have time to do fun little projects like this. So that's what I'm doing. And yeah, I hope to kind of make this a regular thing. And if people end up joining me and want to follow along what I'm doing and ask questions, collaborate, if you have any helpful tips for me, I would love to know. That would be pretty cool. And just, yeah, enjoy the process. I have a comment about this magenta that I pulled, which I'll get to a little bit later. It seems like probably a strange choice for right now, but I want to try something because I usually work in watercolors. That's like my preferred medium overall. I know I mentioned acrylic gouache. Like if I'm gonna paint with acrylics, I usually like acrylic gouache. Ooh, that's not as deep of a color as I thought it was gonna be. That might not work the way I want. We'll see. Anyway, I usually work with watercolors, and I have a magenta watercolor that does something really interesting when I mix it with my red, one of my reds, and it creates like this really like bright brick red color that I think is really, really pretty. So I just want to try to maybe mix it in a little bit and just see what happens. Can always add more paint if I need to. I'll stick with this for now. Okay. So, I think for the first one that I had in mind, I'm probably going to use this rock. So let me move these other rocks out of the way. And if I'm talking quietly, it's only because I have a sleeping baby and I don't want to wake him. But I'm going to try to talk loud enough so at least you can hear me. And let's see, I also want a stencil here because I don't know, I'm one of those people that just really needs a guideline. Like, it really helps me to know what I'm painting if I can, or what am I trying to say? It helps me to paint better if I already like visually can see the shapes. I think it's a lot harder for me to go freeform. Although I will do it on occasion. It's just not my preferred method, if you will. So I'm just kind of giving myself some like generic guidelines for where I want things, so that compositionally it looks good when I'm done. Okay, I think that will work. All right, for the sun, I think I'm just gonna go straight in with this unbleached titanium color. I think this will look really nice as my sun, and just keep that color as a consistent thing throughout all of the rocks. The sun is always unbleached titanium. It's a little bit more difficult to get smooth edges when you're painting on an uneven surface like this. It's, you know, to be expected. But I definitely am glad that I put down that Mod Podge before painting, because I think that is, it's definitely really helping the application of the paint. Like, it feels really smooth and just kind of glides on. Ooh, yeah, it's like buttery soft and smooth. I like that. This color will definitely need a few layers, so kind of let that dry for the time being, and I'm gonna move on to painting the mountains. Now, because this rock is fairly dark, I think I'm probably gonna need to paint, like, my darkest color won't actually be as dark as the darkest color would be on these two lighter rocks, if that makes sense, because I think this rock just needs lighter colors in general to get the kind of contrast that will make it look right. So like, I would be inclined to mix using the burnt umber, and maybe I should, but I think I'm gonna need to like mix a little white in there, or some of this unbleached titanium. Let's just mix this up over here and see what we get. Yeah, okay, that's looking about right. I just want a little bit of red in there too. That might have been too much red. Yeah, it's looking like pinkish, which I did not want. So let's grab a little bit more, mix that up. Definitely appreciate the palette knife, like being able to kind of scrape everything, and then like really, you don't feel like you're wasting as much paint that way. Okay, cool. Cleaning off my palette knife real quick. Okay. So we'll use that as our darkest color. I like to usually grab just a little bit of water on my brush when I go in for the acrylics. I think it just helps it apply a little bit easier. So I'm going for like a very layered kind of look with these mountains. So I'm gonna like start to paint it, but then stop and transition to another color. I just gotta figure out when to do that transition. Probably go ahead and do like from here over. Yeah, looks like I probably need another layer of paint for this one too. And maybe add a little bit of that flow aid to thin up the consistency of the paint a little bit. Like I see some of the brush strokes, which is okay. I'm kind of more of a like, let everything dry matte kind of person, like matte flat kind of person. Especially for something like this, for what I have in mind, I guess. If we're doing loose florals, then yeah, I would like to see some texture with the brush strokes, but not necessarily for this. I see, I'm starting to change my mind about that color. I'm starting to think maybe I do want to go like gray. Just knowing that anything in the foreground is gonna want to be like darker than anything in the background. So from that standpoint, yeah, I should probably make this gray. Might even need to make it darker than that. We'll see how it dries. I know acrylics tend to get darker. Let me clarify. Acrylics, I think, usually get darker when they dry. I might need to go back over this again with adding in even a little bit more black. Just to get enough of a contrast between that and the background of the stone. All right, for now though, I'm gonna go ahead and start on the mountain behind, and then I'll kind of layer in. So that one, oop, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to grab my palette knife. Okay. So, grab a little bit of this black and mix it with that. Oh, see, that's a much like richer brown. I'm gonna lighten it up a touch with some more of that unbleached titanium. This is like the longest, most boring part is mixing paints, I think. All right, let's go with that. So that peak I have, I'm thinking was gonna start like up here. I'll go ahead and give myself an outline for where this part's gonna end. It's just not enough contrast yet. I just feel like it still needs more. Like it either needs to just all be lighter or go like way dark. Yeah, and then that's too close to the actual rock color. Okay. So, redo. I think both of these peaks, I'm just gonna have to go darker. And then go way lighter for the following bands. Like the bands underneath the peaks, which will make a lot more sense once I start painting the bands, and then you'll be like, oh, that's what she means by bands. Like I said, it's up here. Just gotta get this to look like what's in the old noggin. Alright, so I think I'm gonna try to repaint that one, and this time I'm just gonna like mix in a little bit of the original color. That might be too much, and I don't know why I mixed it with the brush like that. That was kind of dumb. Alright, yeah, that's a little darker. So we'll go dark first, and then step it up to the lighter stuff. In terms of the mixes, I just feel like it'll be easier that way than trying to go backwards. So I don't need to add in any flow weight after all. Seems to be going on pretty smooth, especially after the like second or third layer. It seems pretty opaque and nice. Let that dry. I'll go ahead and do another layer on the sun. Titanium color. Guess I could have switched to my filbert brush again, but since I was already using the round brush, I guess I figured I would just stick with it. I have no idea if what I'm saying is captured in like captions at all. I need to look into that. I know on Facebook Live it does like auto captions, which is really weird. Like I'll look up and see what I'm saying typed out on the screen underneath. Like, I don't know, it's just really weird. I mean, it's cool that they do that because it makes it a lot easier and accessible for people kind of just scrolling to understand what I'm talking about without actually listening to the audio. But at the same time, just like, it's kind of weird from the standpoint that I'm like seeing what I said from a few minutes ago. Alright, gonna mix in a good amount of black with, with this brown over here. See if we can't get that a little closer to what I think we're gonna need for contrast purposes. But I'm also kind of worried, like, is it still too close to the other peak? Like, it needs to be a slightly different hue. Just like a touch more red. Just to make it a little bit more different in terms of the gray. Mix some magenta in there. Just kidding. That's probably too many pigments. Yeah, I may not end up experimenting with the magenta tonight. We'll see. Just depends on what I'm getting into. I kind of like fly by the seat of my pants a lot when it comes to this stuff. Yeah, I don't know if this color is any better than what I originally laid down. It, at the very least, is not as brown as what was down before. And that at least provides some contrast from the rock surface that it's going on. So I guess from that standpoint, it's better. I feel like it doesn't blend in as much to the background of the rock. It's funny, I have this like brown color palette in mind, but the rock itself is very brown. And so maybe I shouldn't have, like, maybe I need to kind of get away from the browns and go more toward the grays. Cool. All right. Now I think I can go in with some of this color, but like ease into that transition a little bit. Go with like this kind of a color. And this will be the next band. So what I want to do is to leave a little bit of a gap in between the bands. I think it makes it look a lot more modern with that little bit of separation. Yeah, maybe I should have left it light. Use the lighter color. It's just so hard with the rock background. It's like I'm mixing it on a white background, but then when I go to paint it, it's like, well, of course that wasn't gonna work the way you thought it would. Because it's, you know, not on a, you're not actually painting it on a white background. It's on a brown background. I have to admit, it does feel a little weird, like just talking to myself about stuff while I'm painting. It's like, I don't know if anyone is listening to me or watching me right now, but I'm going on and on about art struggles. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this off with this color that I had already mixed, but I do think I'm gonna end up going back over it with the lighter color. And then, okay. Let me get some more of this burnt sienna. Maybe we'll just go with like burnt sienna mixed with a little bit of unbleached titanium. And see where that gets us. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Although, you know, in hindsight, I kind of wish that I had done the warm colors in the front and then the cooler colors in the back, because I think the cooler colors tend to lend themselves better to visually acting as shadows. And if it's in the background, it would be, you know, more in the shade, possibly. I don't know that that's necessarily true, and maybe it won't matter. We'll see. I'll go ahead and scrape some of this paint I was trying to dry on there. Okay. Where's my brush? There it is. As you can see, I'm definitely not a perfectionist when it comes to mixing the paints. Like, I don't need all of the pigments to be perfectly mixed, just enough. Just enough. I guess another nice thing about using acrylics for this is I can technically like go back over anything that I don't like and change the color. If I'm like, oh, I just think that looks so bad, I can go back in and edit, so to speak. The reason why I'm thinking this right now is because I'm looking at like the peaks and going, is it too dark still? And also looking at like this color and this color. Maybe it'll all come together at the end. I think I need to just let this play out, how it's gonna play out. And then if I need to change any colors, I can. All right. I think I'm gonna end in that part, like right around here. Should I have it curved down a little bit maybe? Just a little bit more. Okay. So I think I'm gonna go to the sun once more. One more layer. Just seeing a couple spots that are still a little patchy. I think I had too much water on my brush, so I may have to do yet another layer at some point. But on the plus side, when you do add a little bit more water, it does tend to like lay down more flat when it dries. I'm using a size 6 round brush in case you were curious about what size round brush. Okay, I'm gonna paint back over this, but I'm gonna use this lighter color because I think it'll stand out better against the rock. Oh, I hear a kid crying outside. Wonder what that's all about. Didn't you love those days when you were a kid when it was still light outside at 9 o'clock and you could keep playing? You don't have to come inside because it got dark. Those were the good old days. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy those days as an adult, but it's a little different when you're just like focused on playing and you're not concerned about work or taking care of your own kids. I definitely love being a mom, but if there was one thing I would say I wish people had told me more to prepare me was like telling me to appreciate my independence while I could. Because I think I thought in my head like, oh yeah, like of course I'm not gonna be as independent anymore, but like I don't think it really hits you until you're in the situation, and then you're like, oh, that's what they mean. Like really I don't have any more independence anymore. I can't just like go somewhere if I want to and be like, I can't just run to 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee, right? Like it's a whole thing. We have to pack up and I have to get him in the car seat, and you know, if it's a shorter trip, maybe I don't need to bring snacks and a drink for him, but you know, at this stage I'm kind of the planner, so I will just go ahead and bring stuff just in case, because you never know. So then you gotta get the diaper bag ready, and just it's a whole thing. But it is just a phase of life, right? Like I know there will come a day where he will be like out of the house and I'm gonna be like, oh no, the house is so empty. Where did the time go? So I gotta enjoy it while I can. The days are long, but the years are short. I really like that saying. I think it's very applicable to parents with small children. My friend told me that, or used that saying not too long ago, and I kind of like really got stuck on it. Like, yeah, that's totally how I feel. All right. Moving on to the bottom bands. So, how do I want to do this? Maybe take a scoop of that, bring it over here. Ooh, that's a pretty color. Look at that color. It's like a neutral lilac kind of color. That's really nice. This is where it gets like really tricky for me. trying to figure out how to hold the rock so I can get a pretty straight line. Trying to stay parallel to the layer above it. That is such a pretty color. Loving that. It's like a light pink, dusty pink. Go ahead and get this edge pretty good. I need to put out some more unbleached titanium. I really like this unbleached titanium color. It's like mixing in white, but not. Mixing it off-white, which is pretty cool. Keep mixing on my brush instead of mixing with the palette knife, but I don't know, for some reason it just feels easier to do that right now, so I'm just gonna go with it. So, man, I feel like I want to make these peaks a lighter color so that I can then go over this with a darker color and add in some like leaves or something. crazy? I don't know. Maybe a little crazy. Phew, that was dry. Good. I feel like I've changed my mind on this, on the peaks, like 3 times now. But I do think this color change is gonna pay off. I think it's just gonna make the whole thing, whoops, tone down a little bit more, which is good. Now, another thing I'm noticing with this matte Mod Podge is I think it's helping the paint dry a lot faster than it otherwise would be. Like, it's drying pretty quick. I mean, acrylics usually dry fast, but like this is faster than I would have expected, I guess. So it's definitely more subtle. But I do like the color change that's going on there. And then let me go ahead and do another layer of this kind of pinkish color. Definitely don't have enough of it mixed up, but I'm gonna see how far I can get with what I do have. Lighter colors tend to need more more layers than the darker colors. The opacity just isn't as good with these pigments. So now, let's do something similar with this mix for the peak. On the other side, again, the contrast won't be as good, but I think it will be more cohesive with the color palette we have going on and allow me to go in with like a black on top of the mountains to add in some more detail. add in some like little plant element or something. Based off of this rate, probably only going to paint this one rock tonight. But that's okay. Definitely gonna paint more, just not tonight. It'll be a different night. If you're wondering where I got this idea from to do abstract landscape paintings on rocks, I saw this Etsy pin that I just really liked that had the idea to do, you know, rock art, but in the like boho minimalist style that I've been seeing a lot for wall paintings. And I actually just painted a little mini series of boho geometric abstract like landscape. Well, I guess a couple of them were landscape and then a couple others were just like geometric. Anyway, I did like a little mini series of paintings with that same concept, but that was on watercolor paper. And then I was like, oh, well that's like, you know, this pin was like doing the same thing, but on rocks. And with the trail system by our house, I know the kids around here really like finding these rocks and collecting them and painting them and then putting them back out there. It's a whole like life cycle. So I thought, you know what? Let's join in on the fun. Yeah, I think those colors definitely look more cohesive to me. All right, now just need to do another layer on this guy. Maybe one more layer on that pink, the dusty pink down at the bottom. If I can, I don't know, if I can trust myself to mix it, that's the problem. Maybe I won't mix it. Maybe I'll like just really scrape what's left and say, come on, paint. You can do it. Fill in those gaps. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think it's gonna do it. That might need to be as good as it's gonna get. And then for the foreground, I was thinking I might paint like a plant or two, maybe do a branch coming here and then there. I need to let that dry a little bit more. Thinking one that just kind of comes up like here. Oh, I love painting leaves. It feels so satisfying. Doing that leaf stroke is just like, ooh, feels so good. I think especially with this black, the Mars black is just like, it just feels so good to mark make, if that makes sense. It's like, just has a nice contrast. There's nothing more satisfying than painting leaves. Especially nice, flowy, droopy leaves. Oh, that's weird. I am noticing a scent to the Mars black for some reason. Why would that be? Why would the Mars black smell? Starts to get tricky at this point. Like, when do you call it quits? When do you say, all right, looks good? I think that'll be the last set of leaves, but I'm wondering if I shouldn't maybe put another one right there, coming straight up to make it even. This is where like painting with watercolor has its benefits, because watercolor tends to be a lot smoother and you can get like really precise with your single strokes like this. Whereas I feel like with the acrylics, which are a little thicker, you don't quite get the nice clean edge at the end of the stroke. Okay. Alright, we're gonna call that one done. I wish that this leaf was more like that, but that's okay. Should I put another one there? This struggle is real. The struggle is so real. I feel like I put a little tiny one there, thinking, well, if I make it tiny, then it's almost like it's not there, but it is still. I should have made this top one tinier, but that's okay. It still looks fine, I think. And we'll do another branch coming up on the other side. It's done. When I get to this point in a painting, I tend to get really quiet. I don't know why that is. I guess because I'm like focusing on not messing it up at this point. I'm so close to the finish line. Just get there. Did it again where I just like messed up the angle, which is really frustrating. Messed up the angle of the original leaves, so I gotta go back in and add in some more to kind of get it balanced out the way I think it should be. Alright, we're gonna say the fronds are done. And I don't know, I feel like I need something dark up here, so maybe like a little bird or something. Let's see if I can grab a paint pen for that. Shake it up. Alright, we got our little birdies in the sky. And I feel like the fronds could have been better, but you know, it is what it is. I think it turned out alright. I still wish there were more contrast to this. Like, I should have maybe saved this design for one of these rocks and gone with something darker in color on here. This rock is just very medium. So the background, you know, doesn't really help the colors pop. But we'll keep going with the series, you know, using the same color mixes and see how all of that turns out. I also wonder if maybe I had done like a base coat of the unbleached titanium over the rock and then painted over that with the other colors, how that would have looked. May try that on one of these and see how that works out. yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. And if you want me to paint anything in particular, feel free to drop me a line. I'd definitely be interested in trying to paint some new things. If you joined me tonight, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.